All right. Good morning. Or maybe it's afternoon, evening, night. Who the heck knows? But I don't want to sound like CC from Westchester County. And if you don't know who that is, you are living a very, very fulfilled life. You don't know about flirs. That's not why I'm here. Although I should touch on that. Now, I would imagine nobody's watching me. I'm pretty sure no one is. But you know, I have a weird day. I have a lot of appointments. I have I got shit that goes on in my life medically. I have another kidney stone. I had one back in 2018, early 2018, and I had a lot of complications from it. And I know my eyes look really weird, but wearing glasses at this distance isn't working for me because I'm getting old. I'm getting really old. Anyway, I'm going to go see my new urologist this morning. And I'm not really here to talk about all that stuff. Hey, Commander, how are you doing? I can't believe you're here, but I guess you're a trucker like me, so you got a weird schedule too. And usually by this time, I'd be on my second run or heading somewhere far away. So, yeah, my first kidney stone ended up with a disaster that left me in kidney failure. I only have one kidney. It kind of screwed me up. So I'm going to go see my urologist. Now, what I was going to say about this situation, something I've been talking about with the people I deal with at Obesity Canada and the people in that community, that we have a group. And if you're interested in that because you're living with obesity or you want to help people living with obesity, I can privately share a link with that. I am on Discord, and I should figure out how to share that, but I'll try to figure that out at some point. But yeah, people I recognize, I will friend on Discord, and I guess that's a good way to communicate. So my morning today, I'm probably going to organize the garage a little bit, head out to that appointment. I have another appointment in the afternoon, and I have a Zoom call about a conference I'm speaking at in October. So it's going to be a busy day. It's kind of neat to have a day when I'm not trucking from early in the morning. My average morning involves waking up at sometime between 3:30 and 4:30 and driving to the yard, getting my truck, which thankfully recently they've had me hooked up to a float most of the time that I'm already hooked up to. A1C was 13. It was over 100 pounds heavier. Okay. Yes, it is. Commander, it is hard. And yeah, so for people that don't know, I guess in the future and for yourself, I was 405 pounds at my heaviest a couple of years ago, and I am now at 345 on average. It goes up and down. I don't weigh myself every day. I try not to get overly consumed by the scale. I'm going to be getting bariatric surgery probably in the winter of 24-25, because the earliest I could get it is next summer. And summertime is a time when I would lose a lot of money taking time off. I work on average 12 to 14-hour days, most 5 days a week in the summer. And if I take 4 to 6 weeks off in the summer, I'm going to lose all that money. I don't think I could get short-term disability that would cover that amount of money. It's better to do something like that in the winter when my pay would be lower anyway. And I'm kind of getting used to that situation because my previous career was kind of uniform year round. And yeah, losing 100 pounds is a lot of work. I've lost over that multiple times, and unfortunately always landed at a much higher weight than I was at previously. When my wife and I got married, I was maybe 340. It's a little bit less than I am today. That was my highest weight ever. And I was like, how did I get here? I lost a bunch. In 2013, I was down to 275. I actually ran a Tough Mudder race and did all but one obstacle in the race at that weight. Um, and so that was over 10 years ago now, and life's been hard. Um, and things went bad for me a couple of times. I was prescribed some medication for a condition I did not have, and that screwed me up big time mentally. It screwed me up. It also screwed me up physically, and I also had a tremendous amount of stress at the time. So a lot of confounding variables, and haven't been able to pinpoint that. There's a lot of correlation without proof of causation, so it's just a hypothesis I have. Regardless, in short time after that, over the next couple of years, my weight steadily increased, and despite not really changing my habits so much, or eating different food or different amounts of food, or at least not in any way I could measure, I gained and held on to a lot of weight. So 405 pounds. Getting up and moving was extremely difficult. Um, and at some point, when I was a slightly lighter weight, I ripped my arm apart. Did a lot of damage to it. Had to have it surgically rebuilt. No one wanted to work on my arm, and I found a surgeon to rebuild it, get my tendon reattached, so at least I could move my arm. At that time, I worked in construction, and I did mostly management, but I also did some physical work. And it led to me needing this repair, a long recovery, and a major lack of activity. And I really haven't gotten back to my preferred my preferred activities of weightlifting. I like to go hiking and stuff. I like to be out in the outdoors. I really enjoy fishing and hunting. I really enjoy riding my motorcycle, and and I like hanging out with my family and just relaxing. So, um, most days working in heavy hauling are pretty physical. I average 9 to 10,000 steps. A lot of times it's over 10,000 in a day. Just from climbing in and out of the cab, back and forth in the truck, up and down off of the machines. The machines are usually, when I'm standing on top of a machine, my feet are usually at 14 feet above the ground. So I've climbed, usually not on a staircase or a ladder. It's usually like, climbing and crawling up on tracks, grabbing a foothold. And then they're usually, once you're up past the tracks, there's a foothold or two or something to hoist yourself up on, something like a hoe, which is colloquial expression for an excavator. I'm not talking about people in the sex work industry, and I mean them no disrespect. I also will sometimes use a word that describes the way the gears are split in a driveline, and some people take offense to that because they think it's a derogatory term for a trans person or someone who dresses in clothes that don't conform to their assigned gender at birth or something of that nature. And while I don't know all the ins and outs of that, I mean no disrespect. So if you hear me talking about something like an 18-speed tranny, I am talking about an Eaton 18-speed transmission. I don't always talk about trucking, but when I do, I'm talking about 18 speeds, a Detroit, a cat, something like that. So when you hear me talk about stuff like that, I'm not talking about the city of Detroit. I'm not talking about a feline animal. I'm talking about a Caterpillar diesel, like a C15, 3406E. Those are ones that our fleet has that I sometimes drive when I'm in a spare truck. And usually, though, I'm in a Detroit DD15, which is totally irrelevant to the conversation, but just clarifying terms that you'll hear Al Trucker use. That's something that happens. So, if anybody wants to take offense, take offense. And if you want me to just avoid using terms like that, I'll try to change my own vernacular. So what I was going to talk about, what I'm interested in right now, is living with obesity and the mental health challenges to go with that. So at 345 pounds, moving my body around is way easier than it was at 405. But it's not easy. It's not easy to get out of a chair. It's not easy to climb in and out of a heavy haul tractor. A heavy haul tractor is at least 6 to 8 inches taller than a standard tractor. The steps are farther apart. It's far more like climbing a ship's ladder to get in and out than it is to walk up the steps of a standard like a Cascadia. I'm trying to think of other standard trucks I've been in, but like even a one of our standard T800s, the steps are closer to the ground and closer together. But yeah, the Cascadias are like walking up a staircase. The getting in and out of my truck is climbing steps and you know hoisting myself up and down. I don't know, probably at least 20 to 30 times a day in and out of the cab is pretty standard, and it's a lot of work to move this body. Um, so for that reason, I'm pretty muscular under here. If I was a 0% body fat, I would still be morbidly obese. I'd be well into the 200s. I think at 0% body fat, I'd weigh about 230. And obviously, I don't want to be 0% body fat, but I'm not 100% sure where I'm at. I haven't had like one of those egg tests in a long time. But here I am. I am where I am. So, one of the things that I've seen some commentary about, and I did a comment on, is on a deadlifting website or Instagram thing. Somebody posted a picture of a guy who had been extremely overweight in the morbidly obese. He was living with obesity, having obviously major health concerns, possibly. Don't know for sure. There's nothing said there, but looking at that gentleman, I see a reflection of myself. um yeah, the Detroit diesel, the Freightliner Cascadias we have mostly have DD16s, Commander, in our fleet. And they're stronger engines than the one I have. My rear end is stronger. My frame is stronger, but I have a DD15, so my horsepower is less by I think close to 100, and my torque is less by I think about 250, 300. I have to look it up, but I know the Detroit DD15 puts out about 1850 torque, and I think right around 500 and change horsepower, and I think the DD16 is way closer to 600, and I think it's putting out about 2200, 2150, something like that. And of course it changes year to year, so you'd have to look up a specific year. But I've had a Cascadia a couple times. Last time I drove one of our older Cascadias that nobody's been driving, it's been a spare truck, had a bad tranny. It got a rebuilt on the 18. It was a very hard to shift thing. It didn't want to go into gears. It clicked on every gear, so it was a pain in the ass to shift. Um, and even like I find my 18 speed box shifts less smoothly than when I was in a T800. Driving a T800 with a cat not too long ago, with an 18 speed, and I was just borrowing it because my truck was in the shop, and it shifted like way smoother. Just a much better situation. Truck has other issues, but it was great. Very rare that we get even close to legal backflip. Oh, and now I got to take a call. A big call. So what do I do? I have to like mute myself, I guess, right? All right, well there you go. That was a shitty way to have life. But yeah, my old job never really disappeared completely. I still take calls on it, and I didn't know that I would get a call like that in the middle of streaming, but I'm sure people just left en masse because trying to read my lips is probably really, really annoying. Your care is very rare to get close to the legal maximum. So, Commander, I don't know if you're still watching. I can't tell. There's one person left watching. So, like, this is terrible. So, I probably lost everyone. It's probably me watching. Anyway, that was a shitty way to run a stream, but sometimes life never stops. Yeah, so we run the legal maximum of a transport truck is my average payload in terms of like what a tandem runs in the states. Um, so yeah, like I very rarely am hauling a machine that weighs less than 80,000 pounds. Sometimes they'll be in the 60s or 70s. I get the odd one. A lot of times it's a reload because I've taken something heavy somewhere and they just throw something on. And I sometimes move very light things that are very tall, very wide, very, very long. I don't do the long stuff as much. There's other guys that are better trained on it. So we run like trombone trailer configurations. So like those would be situations where the trailer's over 75 feet long on a 4 axle or 4 leg trailer. So yeah, there's some long stuff out there, but yeah, so I'm here I am. I'm talking about heavy hauling. I'm talking about being a heavy man, which is something I've dealt with most of my life. You didn't leave, Commander. You're amazing. You're amazing. So someone else left then because I guess the count of one is you. Yeah, I'm sure that was like a pretty terrible stream. So not as terrible as maybe Sir Sick, who does terrible streams for terrible people. I do horrible streams for great people because I'm just not good at being a YouTuber. Um, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get good at it. Maybe I won't. Um, I gotta figure out how to do content in a different way. Um, I gotta get visuals that I can work with, and I gotta figure out how to do audio and stuff. I find my voice doesn't come out very well. And interestingly, a lot of people in real life will like hear me talk and say I've got a great voice for radio or something like that, and I'm not really sure what they're talking about. But oh, Commander, are you off work today? It looks like you are. Anyway, I'm hoping that I can make use of a voice that sounds good, better by having better audio. And I noticed that if I listen back to a short clip of myself on, say when I'm on Slim's channel. My voice doesn't sound terrible, but the audio is really, really weak, and I think that's because it's over a cell phone, which is understandable. And I don't think it's good on here either on my son's laptop here, which he got as a gift for his birthday. I'm trying not to break it on him, but yeah, its mic is probably just pretty basic, so I'll have to work on that. And I noticed I didn't use the light. I've been using this light. People can tell me, Commander, you can tell me, is it better when I light myself up like this, or is it worse when I light myself up like this? I guess it depends on how ugly you find this face. So yeah, I hope you're back at work there tomorrow, Commander. It's hard to make money in this industry if you're not actually rolling. At least I find it is. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think this light is doing me that much good, but anyway, I'll put it there. It's supposed to be a thing. I think it just makes me look more like myself. Um, so yeah, so getting into the meat of this conversation, and hopefully, if people do watch this later, and obviously, Commander, you've left, so if people do watch this later, what I want to talk about is about mental health and about what helps mental health. So the program I was watching, or this Instagram thing, was a short video clip. And I guess if I knew what I was doing, I could share that up here. But basically, they show a large man being put down in public by a woman who says she has no interest in him because he's large. That's kind of the gist of what's said. And then it shows him being inspired by that, and then losing a bunch of weight through a combination of diet, exercise, and bariatric surgery. They don't show the surgery, they just show him working out, and he becomes a bodybuilder, which is pretty cool. I need another light on my right-hand side. Yeah. Yeah, okay. That's a good point, Commander, and Commander, I know you lost a bunch of equipment when it was damaged, and you've been working on fixing it, so, if you had that much money invested in equipment, you probably know exactly what you're doing with this stuff, and I know you've done some amazing work with, like, rendering, graphics and animations and, stuff like that, which I've never really looked into too much, but I bet that would be a good addition to some of what I'm doing, because some of what I wanna say, I could probably, visualize better with some animations, because I have a lot of topics I'm interested in, so I don't know what I'll cover, but I'm basically interested in, science. I'm interested in science, and I wouldn't be interested in living with obesity if I didn't live with obesity. For some reason, it's not something that you did not. Oh, the counter, the eyeball counter went down to 0. But that's probably just the way life works. And anyway, I really appreciate that somebody's here talking to me, because otherwise I'd be just pouring thoughts out into the ether, which was proven to not exist. Um, but ether does, and sometimes it'll help you start a cold diesel. But you got to be careful. So I watched this clip, and I was like, okay, that's great. I'm glad this gentleman was inspired. Um by being rejected. At least that's the way it's presented by the people that he looks like a young man. The voice of the woman makes her sound like a young woman. Maybe she's attractive, maybe she's not, or maybe he finds her attractive, or just finds her opinion as a young woman, who's maybe of an age where she's looking for a partner or a mate, that he's out of the running. And I've been there. I've been in the running. I've been out of the running. I'm an old man. I'm married. I got 2 kids. My wife and I love each other. We've been together a long time. We both live with obesity. We understand that, and we have a lot more than that in common, a lot more love and respect for each other than that, but it certainly helps that we both live with that. It really helps us understand each other and understand some of the challenges we deal with. And we were both smaller when we got together than we have been over time, and my wife deals with it differently than I do. um and she's got her mental health in better shape than I have had. Although mine's better now than it's been in a long time, and that's kind of what's motivating me to get up and say something out loud, because I've been in some pretty rough mental health states over time. Um and some of it has to do with that. It's a lot of different things, and I'll probably do a stream devoted to mental health, and I'm hopefully get one where a bunch of people will join in and get some opinions on it. And the one I did on the weekend, um, where you're still here, Commander. You are amazing. You are amazing, and I appreciate it. So, um, so when I saw this, one of the comments someone made on this video was that bullying sometimes works. And I said, no. I made a long diatribe, a couple of them actually, because people said some things that I thought were not just insensitive, but untrue. What I said was, perhaps this young gentleman was inspired somewhat by that, but I bet there was a lot more to it than that. Because I know there's more to it than that. The mentality of someone who lives with obesity trying to overcome it, doesn't come from one person's comment. And at the point where I'm at in my life, people's comments usually come to me as like, I just chalk it up to, well, there's another one, right? And there's so many things that people that live with obesity hear all the time that we just sort of slough off. And I think it's interesting in the community that I seem to have found on YouTube. There's a bunch of people that have a bunch of different issues, who are in one way or another ostracized by society. And I guess if you really get down to it, you can find everyone's ostracized in one way or another. But when you're certain types of different, you can't get away from it. You cannot pretend. You cannot blend in. And at the size that I'm at, I can't blend in at all. It's probably hard for people to really see how large I am from like the screen here. I don't know if anybody can see how big I am. But this is me. Um, this is what I look like. My hands are large. My arms are large. My forearm is, I think, something like 14 and a half inches in circumference. To give you a sense of like how big I am, I'm a very large man. I'm not very tall. I'm not very tall. I'm 5'8". With my back impacting and stuff. I think I used to be about 5'9" ish, maybe a little bit more. But I've shortened. My spine has curved. My belly's pulled my back apart. My the weight of who I am has sort of crushed my body down. So standing up straight isn't something I can do anymore. So I've noticed I've gotten shorter. My legs aren't super long though. Never have been. Probably never will be, which is fine. Can't change who I am. No point in doing that. But but I beat myself up about my size. I could beat myself up about being a different height than I want to be, and I often joke that I've reached my goal weight and only 3 feet to go until I'm my goal height, and then I'd be a normal person. But the fact is, I am a normal person. And I joke around about my weight quite a bit. It's kind of a coping mechanism, I guess, or like a defense mechanism, maybe. Um, I hear a lot of people making comments about weight in general, and bullying doesn't really help. And people that think bullying will help are, well, they're just fucking wrong. That's it. They're just fucking wrong. What would really, really help anybody who's struggling is some encouragement, some friendly words. Telling obese people living with obesity that they're obese and need to lose weight is a really shitty way to handle it. And telling people that they have no value because of that is a really shitty way to handle it. It doesn't make people feel good. And people that don't feel good don't have great mental health coming from not feeling good. Great mental health is something hard to find. It may take medication, it may take therapy, probably requires a combination of the two, and will continue to require that combination. I don't think that's likely to change. It doesn't matter how good we get at stuff. I know some people that watched Star Trek back in the day. Remember, they had like a little like thing they'd hold in their hand and wave it around somebody's body and find their problem and solve it, and everybody was just good. But I don't remember. I think it was on The Next Generation. There was a woman there who was basically like a therapist, which says to me that we might be able to find and fix a lot of physical ailments. And the brain is physical; it's part of the body. I don't have much of a neck, but my head is connected to my body, and somewhere inside this giant noggin is a brain, and it's a lot of stuff in the brain, a lot of stuff in the head makes us who we are. And when a brain is full of negative self-talk and negative messages that are reinforced from outside sources, that doesn't help them go away. And I've realized that over my life, I've had a few positive messages. And, oh, you're going to $500 day instead of 300. Oh, that's great, Commander. That's great. I'm glad to see that. And I guess I don't want to go. I won't go on a major tangent, but I'll come back to that conversation because I think it's an interesting one, especially because I know you're in the U.S. where dollars are worth a different amount. So one thing that I found really interesting about my own mental health is that a lot of times what's been hardest to do is let go of the negative messages I've received from outside that have built on negative messages that I've built inside my head, and see myself as a positive overall. Because I know that I can list off positive attributes that I have. I could make a column of negative and positive. I have some negative attributes, and I could put my what do you call it? I could put my weight as a negative attribute. I could put it as a positive attribute. I mean, like, if you don't want to float away in a windstorm and I grab onto you, you're not going anywhere. That's a positive. I can open any jar with my hand. I the only time I'm ever slowed down is when my hands are wet or the jar is wet, and I can fix that with a towel. Being large, muscular, and even being living with obesity has some advantages. People don't fuck with me in public. People that know me will joke around with me, but like, I walk around with no worries because I live in Canada where guns aren't a major part of our culture. I don't really worry about people fucking with me, and I'm generally a nice, affable person. Um, but yeah, when you're this big, you know, and I'm muscular as well as being obese and having excess adipose tissue, which I carry mostly in my belly. My arms and legs are very strong and muscular. I don't come off as someone people want to fuck with. That's positive. But at the same time, it's really hard to climb up and down stairs. My knees hurt. Um, so, but is that a positive? I mean, I don't live in a society where like there's a lot of physical violence walking down the street. A lot of the problems with that exist inside people's homes. And emotional violence and mental anguish and abuse are happening to people all over the place. And that's something that's harder to deal with. And it doesn't matter how big I am, how strong I am, how much of a man I am, whatever that means. These are all bullshit things. None of that will help you fight against mental anguish. It won't help you fight against negative messages, because at the end of the day, we're all people, and we all have emotions, we all have brains, we all try to figure out where things are at. And the one sort of thing that I keep coming back to is, everybody that's got shit to deal with, is working hard to deal with their shit. That's part of life. What sucks is that people will come back to um, making themselves feel better by putting someone else down. And I'm trying to stop myself from doing that, because I'm coming across these people who I see as being absolute assholes, and thinking, well, I may be a shitty person for all these reasons, but at least I'm not that shitty. And then here I am saying, that person's a piece of shit, and why am I being so mean and disrespectful to them? Is there a difference? That's a question I have. Is there a difference? Like, when I say that someone like Ken Hovind is an absolute piece of shit asshole who doesn't deserve the time of day, am I bullying him? I put a comment up that I deleted, you know, um, acting tough for the most easily offended. Yeah. Well, there you go, Commander. That's a good point. Yeah, like people that are bullies are often that. No, I try not to be a bully, but then, am I being a bully when when I'm bullying Kent Hovind by saying he's a piece of shit? He is a piece of shit. I mean, that's an objective fact. He treats people like absolute garbage, and he records it on YouTube, and he has absolutely no respect for anybody. He has no intellectual honesty. He has, you know, he's brought ill repute to the Hawaiian shirt in a way that will never be resurrected. I think Doc Dino was talking about that last night, because he likes to wear Hawaiian shirts, and he feels like his shirts are slighted by his shittiness. But what I find interesting is people are standing behind bad ideas. Um, like religion doesn't have to be bad, and there's probably some good pearls of wisdom in a lot of religions, and there's a lot of shit though. I mean, treating people badly and going out of your way to treat people badly because they're different than you, it's a pretty shitty way to live your life. And if you need that in order to feel okay about yourself or feel superior or whatever, I think that kind of sucks. And I don't want to feel superior to people that are flat earthers or mean spirited religious zealots who have mental problems. Um, yeah, but yeah, he knows Ken Oven was selling. Yeah, no, you're right, Commander. He's an absolute piece of shit individual. Um, you know, um, someone mentioned about like a young child died on his park property. I don't know if it's like a campground or like it's like a place where people hang out or it's like I don't know. People come and stay there and they have like a dino park or whatever, and that's why he calls himself Doc Dino. That and the fact he has a bunch of like bullshit degrees. I'm allowed to do this like degrees. Like I mean he's a piece of shit in that regard too, right? He's pretending to have education he doesn't have. He has no intellectual honesty, and he's just a great example of someone who's kind of internet famous for really bad reasons, and he thinks he's like cock of the walk, I guess. And you know, I made a comment yesterday that I'd like to just go up and punch him right in the face, and I'd spend the rest of my life in prison just for the pleasure of doing that. But that I deleted it because that's a shitty thing for me to say. You know, he he probably deserves some prison time for a lot of the shit he's done. It sounds like he's a financial criminal, without doubt, because he's been tried, convicted, and done his time. And if he's done his time, he's done his time. But he's come out and had like really shitty takes on stuff. Like when that kid died in his park, he didn't seem to have anything to say about it except how badly the parents wanted to come back and visit again. That's a really fucking shitty take on somebody dying. I think if that's what you got to say about it, it's time to keep your mouth shut. And if you do feel the need to speak publicly about it because you're in the public eye, I think like expressing an extreme amount of sorrow and empathy to the parents that have lost their child is probably like all you'd want to put out there. I feel bad for those parents. I feel bad for anyone that was there. I feel like that is just it's very difficult to lose someone and someone close to you, someone in your family. I've lost some close friends. I lost my father earlier this year, um, with whom I didn't have a perfect relationship, and that doesn't make it easy to deal with because you think of stuff left unsaid. And as an atheist, I don't think of my father having a spirit or a soul that's in heaven, hell, or purgatory or anything like that. He's gone. He's lived his life. He's left behind his children, his wife, his grandkids. We're all here. We remember him, and I know at the time I decided to do what I'm trying to do every day, which is remember the good stuff. The bad stuff, anything that was less than awesome about my dad, try to just forget it because you know why would I want to remember that shit? But any of the shit that's affected who I am as a person, I got to deal with. I can't pretend anything he did or said didn't affect me. I worked with him for a long time, so but he wasn't a shitty person. My dad was actually a pretty awesome person. A lot of people thought really highly of him, including me. I had mixed reviews on some aspects of him as a person, but I'm sure anyone could say the same thing about me or anyone else out there. And you take certain people that are out there being absolute pieces of shit on the internet, and you think to yourself, okay, is it wrong of me to put these people down? and maybe it is. But I also think it's right to call out bullshit. That's important to me that I stand up and call out bullshit. And a lot of people have counseled me against trying to engage in social media conversations with anyone about living with obesity because that is ostensibly the main thing I deal with. I have, along with obesity, I have comorbidities, quite a few of them. I have, I have sleep apnea. I have type 2 diabetes. I have high blood pressure. I have the single kidney, which is not related to obesity. But I have other issues. I have mental health issues for which I take medication. You add all that stuff together, it doesn't make life easy. Um, it means I take a lot of medication. I don't know how much the medication changes who I am or how I am. I don't know how it changes how I'm able to gain or lose weight. Um, I want to shift fat off my body so that I can be healthier, so that I can be lighter. And the mental health component is really difficult. So importantly for me, um, today, I'm going to see my therapist again for the first time in a while, and I've been working with her for many years, and she knows and understands me quite well, and usually has some good things to say. And I really really appreciate the fact that I have someone to talk to that I feel comfortable talking to. And anybody that's dealing with anything, I highly recommend trying to find a therapist. Hopefully, you can find the financial means to do it and a good one to deal with because the way life's been, I don't think anybody's unaffected by mental health going through a few years of COVID. Seems to be coming back with a vengeance to a bunch of communities, including I've heard some people local to me getting it. You know, it's been a mind fuck. I don't think anyone can deny that. And anything else that's going on is gonna like fuck you up. So I'm just gonna say that living with obesity is something that affects your mental health in a deleterious way, but it is something that has to be dealt with head on. And Commander, I'm so glad you're still here. So I'm gonna talk money for just a minute because you brought up how much money you're gonna make in a day doing a double run. You start at 4:30 a.m. So I'm assuming that'll mean 4:30 is your start time in your truck. That's what it means for me. Like if they my earliest start time is 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. The odd time I'll run a different schedule. But they'll often send me out the night ahead if it's at all possible. Like do like an early run for Monday morning. I'll leave like on a Sunday afternoon and get a bunch of hours up the road if it's out of town or a longer run. And I know you run New York State a lot, Commander, from what I've heard you say. So I'm not sure if you always are there or if you run further. I know I've heard you talk about Buffalo and New Jersey, so I'm assuming you're running the I don't know, is it I-90? I can't remember. I haven't been down in New York in a while, and I don't do a lot of over the border runs. Haven't done for a while. I don't think I've never done any with the company I'm with now. A few guys do them, and they like to send guys that are really experienced doing the stuff we do. But I'd happily go the odd time if they wanted me to. I have traveled all the way across the continent in Canada, though. So yeah, so I've never looked at what I make in a day, but definitely so Cincinnati to the west, Maine to the north, Virginia. Okay, yeah, so that's like that's pretty similar to the region that I would usually run. I think in geographic area. Because I find myself with this company, I have run coast to coast, Newfoundland to BC with them, and some of the guys have run all over the continent. Recently, we had guys go to Alabama and then to Labrador, which is north of Newfoundland. But yeah, I usually am running Ontario and Quebec pretty commonly. I'll be anywhere in that area. So if I go from the Manitoba border to the New Brunswick border, that's a pretty huge region to cover. Driving the Manitoba border would be like a 2-day run minimum. I actually dropped something off near the Manitoba border last summer, and it took me 5 days to go there, drop off a crane, turn around and come back. And I did grab a machine on the way back, I think. Can't remember the exact circumstances, but yeah, I think I did that. But the grabbing that machine would have added like 2 hours to the overall run. It wouldn't have changed it by a day. So yeah, so we get paid by the hour doing what we do. I don't know if you get paid by the run or the mile. I find those interesting concepts. And also, there's certain industries that just run it in what I think is a dumb way. I think it adds to um, haste and unsafe driving by a number of drivers I see out there. Dump truck drivers seem to be the worst for this. And it doesn't matter whether they're single straight truck dump trucks or one's running a pup, one's running the end dump or the live bottom. They all tend to drive like absolute bats out of hell assholes. They are the worst, least respectful drivers as a whole. Now, lots of them are great drivers. Lots of them are super respectful, super excellent drivers. But because their industry is based on how many runs you get done in a day, that is contributing to like an attitude where like they have to get there. I get paid by the hour. My employer wants me to be quick and efficient. They'd rather I get one more run done in a day, and so would I. Because if I do 4 runs in a day and end 3 hours early, you might well flat case rate for the most part. Unless it's related to okay, you get paid for waiting. Okay, and if you do get paid for waiting, see, I think that's good too because then you're not getting pissed off because of there's a detention, right? And I find the same thing. It's like somebody says, okay, we can't load you or we can't get at you or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna sit in my truck, drink my coffee. I can, maybe watch a YouTube video or something. Like I can do something. I can make a couple of calls from my old previous job that I still handle a little bit. Like, I just talked to some of the people that were involved in that job because I was involved with it for so damn long. I still help my old partner with it. That's all. I just talk to people that are involved in it. It's important to me that it goes smoothly. Important to him. I'm going to end the stream shortly, but Commander, I want to thank you very much for being here and adding to the conversation. Maybe Commander, next time I'm doing a stream, I'll invite some people on, have a conversation. Maybe we'll get like see. But I want to invite people to think about this. Let's think about if we're calling people out for being shitty, let's work on asking them not to be shitty. And if we're bullying people for stupid reasons, like how they look and stuff like that, we got to stop that. We got to not bully people. We got to call people out and basically draw out from them their best. And if the person is an absolute piece of shit, or they have mental problems that stop them from being less than a piece of shit, more than a piece of shit, depending on how you look at it. I think we need to think about that. I was thinking about that. Slim mentioned that on his thing yesterday, and I had the run. It was a bit of a weird day for me because I got off work early. I only had to work like 10 hours yesterday with an early start. So I was home. I was helping around the house. It's kind of an very odd thing for me in the summer. And then having a day off today, it's been cool. Yeah, Commander, I'll definitely, I'll do one maybe with a bit of planning. I have been the last 2 weekends. I've managed to stream on a Saturday, but it's not been at the same time. I've had Dr. Tapioca Weasel join me, which is great. And then there was another guy that joined us. Punk to Prairie, Punk to Pasture. Yeah, Punk to Pasture. That's it. Punk to Pasture was on here. Don't know him. Hadn't met him before. Getting to know him. I think Dr. Tap is going to get his contact info, and maybe we'll get him in again. I think he came from watching another stream. I can't remember whose. Anyway, there was one stream, and I was going to do one anyway, and I just said, "Hey, I'm doing one," and people came. I can't remember if you were there or not. I can't remember anything, but I quadrupled my viewership by having 6 people watching at one time. So, yeah. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Piece of garbage. Ken Hovick, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's kind of a choice, and his personality and his thoughts and his ethical points of view are they're all sort of tied together. And he's an example of someone who basically everything he does is right. Everything everyone else does is wrong. He's never been wrong ever in his life. I mean, that's kind of the problem. It's like it's not how he looks. It's not it's not his hair. I've made fun of his hair in his old videos because it looks like it was made by Lego. And I think I said that joke. It landed pretty good. It was pretty funny. But yeah, if you look at his videos from like the early '90s, he does look like he like grabbed a Lego minifigure hair and popped it on his head, which is, that's not a good reason to make fun of him. He had hair. I don't have hair, so, who am I to talk? But, Ken's attitude to other people, his lack of empathy, his lack of consideration for other people and their thoughts, and his absolute garbage takes on things. Religiously, like so all like his theology, his take on that and the way people should behave. And he comes off as a grifter. He doesn't come off as a sincere preacher. He doesn't come off as a pastor or someone who's trying to minister to people. He comes off as someone he's selling a lie. He's a little less like charismatic. He doesn't do a lot of the I mean, I haven't seen him like do anything but talk. Like he sort of presents these things. He says absolute bullshit in a matter of fact kind of way, as though this bullshit is real. But he's not one of these guys that does a lot of the praise Jesus and the waving of the hands and stuff. I haven't seen him do that. If he does, it'd be kind of amusing to see if he is like that in some of his like sermons or whatever. But no matter, it's the same thing, different shtick. I've got the golden ticket to heaven. If you send me money, God made the entire universe out of nothing, but he's short on cash now. Like, holy fuck, does that make sense at all? And I think of like some of these things, like, that a rich man should give everything away and join the church, to find good things. And there's probably something to be said for not shackling yourself to worldly possessions. But, maybe as someone I've got some good stuff in my life. I'm luckier than most, probably. I think statistically I am. Maybe in my country, in my society, I'm not at top of the heap by any means. But, I have a house. The bank owns most of it. I'm working on owning it. Maybe I will one day. I got a truck just bought and paid for moving myself around. We got a loan for my wife's car. We got a lot of expenses. I got my kids in activities and stuff that are stretching, but I want them to like have these great solid foundations. My kids have lots of stuff to deal with that I won't get into, but I'm trying to help them have as good a life as possible and a great start in life. And that's what, my parents did their best to do that for me. I'm trying to do that for my kids. It may not be everything, but I'm trying to give them everything I've got. I think that's what's important. And, I've got the means to do that. I don't have a lot of surplus money for other stuff. I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to make more money. The longer I work at what I do, the more money they pay me per hour, which is great. And my wife has a decent job. We've got it pretty good. And I'm glad to be able to do stuff for my kids. I'm glad to be able to, have food, shelter, and more. I'm really lucky to have that. A lot of people don't have any of that. And so I realize I'm extremely, extremely lucky. But I also realize I don't need to give all of that away to a church to get into heaven. I don't think there's any such thing. Yeah. Yeah, no, that golden rule. And you know what? My father was not a religious man. I don't know if he was anti-religious exactly. I'm pretty sure he was an atheist. He never talked about God, but let's say we heard a lot about Jesus, and my kids hear a lot about Jesus all the time because I invoke his name, not in vain, because I'm hoping he's going to show himself when something goes wrong. But being kind and treating others the way you would want to be treated. My father believed in that, in what he said, and mostly what he did. And I honestly believe if I look at anything my father did that screwed me up in any way, shape, or form, or like got into my head, it was all meant well. Um, there was some shit in there that had to do with other stuff, and I'm not gonna dig deep into it. It's not really relevant. But he believed in the golden rule. He always talked about the golden rule. It's like you do to others what you would want done to you. And the one thing he taught me, and I said this when I did like a little eulogy at his funeral, and I always and I this is I can't remember how he always put it, but I said you do whatever you can whenever you can for anyone that you can do it for, whatever it is, right? My father did it. I've done this. I'll continue to do it. So see somebody having a problem, stops and helps them. You know, I can't remember the last time I did this. One time that sticks out in my head, there was a young woman on the side of the road. She was crying by her car. She waved. I pulled over. I wasn't sure what had happened to her. It turned out she had run out of gas. She couldn't get her debit card to work at the gas station. This is a number of years ago. And I happened to have a brand new diesel jerry can. She had a gas car. I had a diesel jerry can. I just bought a couple of brand new ones the day before for moving fuel around on a job site back when I was in construction. And I was like, okay, well, I haven't put diesel in this yet. I was like, you know what? I'll go grab you some gas. We'll get you up the road and you can get home. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna come with you. I'm gonna I think I have a little bit of money. I'll try my debit card. I'm like, don't worry about it. Anyway, I wasn't gonna take her with me, but she hopped in my truck. So, I didn't want her to feel uncomfortable or whatever. I was gonna let her stay with her car, but she wanted to come. So I took her down. She told me a little bit about the story. She basically had tried 2 gas stations, couldn't get her debit card to work. She was pretty sure there was money in her account, but I've been there. Money gets frozen, something gets fucked up. Doesn't matter. Maybe she had no money. Maybe she was just, this is the way she got around. It's just crying on the side of the road. I don't really give a shit. She got home safe that day, as far as I know. That's all I care about. She wanted to help with everything. She wanted to get the jerry can out. She wanted to pump the gas. She didn't want It's like she didn't want the help, but she was super grateful to have it, you know? Like, the way she was talking, I felt like she felt like she had to do something for me. I'm like, "No, what I want is for you to get home safely," you know? And I'm an old enough guy that this young woman, definitely could be my daughter. I would have been a lot younger than I was when I had kids if she was my daughter, but it wouldn't have been weird, you know? Um, I don't want my daughter to be out one day with her debit card not working and not have someone help her. I wouldn't want her to get in a strange person's car or truck. But yeah. Basically, and if I was there, and you know what, people have done that for me. I've been in a situation where something shitty's happened, and I had a guy offer me like $500 cash to for a tow truck, and he's like, yeah, you just take this and send it back to me. And I'm like, yeah, I said I'll happily do that, but let me I had credit cards, I didn't have cash. Anyway, I called a couple of tow companies. I said, as long as you can take my credit card, we're good. And then once we clarified they could take my credit card, he left once he knew they were there and I had a credit card. That guy, he tried to pull me out. I actually just ended up, I pulled on the side of the road with a loaded pickup truck, and it fell into soft snow, and I just couldn't get traction. Didn't have a locking diff. Would have been, and I didn't have, in that particular truck, I didn't have 4-wheel drive. If it had 4-wheel drive and a locking diff, never would have been a problem. I would have just driven right out. But I just pulled over. Commander, you obviously run these north areas. The shoulder of the road can look a little wider than it really is when it's full of snow, and that's and I pulled over at a slow speed, and just I felt one wheel sink in. I stopped, and I was like, oh shit, I couldn't move. And it was a pretty heavy load, and just couldn't get it pulled out. But big, like 5-ton tow truck got it out, and I was on my way. But I think about that. I think about do what you can, right? Having helping your neighbor, helping your fellow person. You see people out there, you see them having a rough time. Do what you can. It's not always enough. We don't always have enough to give. But if we do everything we can to get them help, then we're being the best person we can. And if the way you're trying to help people is by telling people that if they send you money, you're getting them into an imaginary place, okay. And if you don't think that place is imaginary, fine. And if giving them money for God makes you feel like you're going somewhere good, that's good. I don't believe in it, but you're welcome to. Being an atheist is an interesting position sometimes, because you have to basically say, there's no sort of evidence of this whatsoever. It's culturally traditional to believe this weird thing. Not uniformly, but there's versions of it kind of throughout recent human history. Might have existed before, might not really sure. Commander, I can't believe you're still here. You're sticking around way too long. Way too long. But I'm gonna wrap it up with this. Um, I'm gonna keep trying to be a good person. I'm gonna keep trying to deal with my own issues, and I hope that anyone out there that's listening to this, if you've made it through all of this, and you're struggling to figure out what to do with life, just go out and be a good person. Help people with anything and everything that you can. Leave it at that. And if you see someone living with obesity, don't tell them they're fat. Don't tell them they need to lose weight. That's not going to help them. I've had similar things said to me so many times by strangers, friends, family. We fucking know. We're not unaware. That's not the problem. What would be more helpful is invite us to go for a walk. Invite us to come over for coffee and have a chat. Something like that. A place to talk, a place to share, a place to, have a friend who's friendly, and not pointing out your faults. And if you can find it in yourself to not point out the faults, but hey, like, prop somebody up, say, hey, you're awesome for this, right? Like, Commander, I don't know you that well. I know you're a hardworking trucker. I know that you, from what I've seen, you're an amazing animator and very skilled with computers. And I know that you also have been a very skilled machinist. Those are all some pretty cool skills. And I only have one of them, and I'm still working on it. I'm relatively new at it. Being a full-time trucker, I did a lot of moving of machinery and driving big vehicles in construction, but it wasn't the same as what I do now. I'm learning more about it every day. I try to get better. I try to get more focused. I try to get more smooth on everything I do. I'm working on it. But I wouldn't even say I'm super skilled at it. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm 2.5 years in pretty much at this point. And I'm loving it. I love the job. Religious institution has no outreach towards helping less fortunate with physical fitness is not worth. Yeah, no, and you're right. You're right, Commander. I think, you know what, Commander, it's kind of wrong that we give a free path to a free pass to these religious institutions. They don't need that. They shouldn't have it. I don't want to give it to them, but it seems to be something we're doing. So, it is what it is. Can't change that. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to end this because I need to go deal with some stuff. And I need to get on the road because I got to go to this appointment. So I want to say thank you. Thank you, Commander, for being here the whole time. I know it wasn't a big audience, but we've had a good conversation here. And, maybe people will watch it in the future and get something good from it. And, if you have a contrary opinion, make a comment. And, I guess, what are we supposed to say? YouTubers like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. If you want to, do that. If you don't, it is what it is. But thanks very much, Commander, for being here for the whole time. Appreciate having an audience. You have an audience of one. It's good conversation, and I'll have you on another time. I'll plan one, and we'll have a chat. Maybe we'll come with some topics to discuss. And I enjoyed the thing you put on the other night. You've got some good ideas about stuff. Got a lot of good knowledge on stuff. So definitely get some great conversations going. So with that, I'm going to say thank you so much, and everybody have a good one out there. Drive safe.